So, this is a pretty cool image behind me. And, well, back in the day, before photography, you would have had to, come down here, spend a few hours, maybe over a few days, drawing, painting, whatever, just to capture this image. Capture one version of this image. Could it turn out terribly? Could it turn out well? You don't know. But, with photography, you can, capture this image extremely easily. You can capture full versions of this image. You can capture a vertical shot of this image. You can capture this image from a different angle. You can capture this image with a filter, this image with a different filter, capture this image upside down. And all this, it would take you about 2 minutes, and you wouldn't need any experience whatsoever. It would probably look better than any painting or drawing. But photography didn't always used to be this way. In fact, at its invention, photography was not much better than the painting or drawing that it would replace. They say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, photography gives you the ability to take 1,000 pictures. Our story begins in 1021 AD in the Middle East with an Iraqi intellectual by the name of Alhazen. Alhazen did a lot of work on the concept of the camera obscura, which had been around since prehistory. However, in this book, the Book of Optics, he published his findings, which were very accurate for the time. And though it would take 800 years, these findings would eventually lead to the first ever photograph. In 1827, 806 years after Alhazen published his findings, a French inventor by the name of Joseph Nicephore Niepce took the world's first ever photograph by capturing light on a series of chemicals that were on a plate. The photograph was taken from a window in a building called a Gras, which is located in France, and it took 8 to 10 hours to expose. The quality is pretty subpar. My photograph from earlier will follow us through history, and right now, it doesn't look that great, but at least it exists. 9 years later, we pick up back in France with a French photographer by the name of Louis Daguerre. He invented probably the first practical method of photography, the daguerreotype. He used this method to take the first still photograph of a human ever in history, which he called Boulevard du Temple. And the daguerreotypes took only 8 to 10 minutes to expose, which is a significant improvement from 8 to 10 hours. Here is our photo now. You can see it's starting to kind of take shape, but it's still got a long way to go. A little side note here, in 1878, after 4 years of trying, a British inventor by the name of Edward Muybridge made this little animation semi-video thing of a horse galloping, which he used with a bunch of cameras that took a bunch of photos as the horse passed by. Not strictly on the subject of photography, but I think it's kind of cool. We now cross the ocean to the land of liberty, and George Eastman, an American entrepreneur who in 1884 invented the Kodak camera and his own company to sell them. You might have heard of the Kodak company before. The Kodak camera was very revolutionary. It was fairly cheap, and it was super easy to use, requiring no massive plates or toxic chemicals to carry around with you. The Kodak camera could take 100 photos on a single roll. Our photos don't really look that different from before, but at least we can get it in the bulk and on the cheap. George Eastman and his Kodak company were not done yet, though. In 1900, they invented the Brownie camera, which only costed about $3, or $33 in today's money. That is insane for the time. It was even easier to use than the Kodak. All you needed to do was press a button and send in the film. It's truly revolutionary. Unfortunately, the photo didn't really change at all. For our final entry in this list, we go over to the not yet Nazi Germany and Oskar Barnick, a German inventor who in 1924 invented the Leica camera. The Leica camera is truly tiny, just look at it. Holy shoot, I cannot bear witness to this for too long, it is too much for my eyes. The Leica camera was the first ever camera to use the 35mm film type, which is still the most common film type used today, so pretty revolutionary. And there you go, look at our photo. Beautiful.